Hi again, bees. I told you I would be back to read you a story. Today we're going to read the book, The Mitten. I love this book. Have you guys ever heard this book before? The Mitten is written by Jan Brett. Okay, maybe I'll move up a little closer for you guys. How's that? Can you see that? All right. Once there was a boy named Nicky who wanted his new mittens made from wool as white as snow. Do you think it's a good idea to make mittens that are white? Let's take a look. At first, his grandmother, Baba, didn't want to knit white mittens for Nicky. If you drop one in the snow, she said, you're never gonna be able to find it. But Nicky wanted snow white mittens, and finally Baba decided she would go ahead and make them. After she finished making the mittens, she said to Nicky, when you come home, the first thing that I'm gonna do is to look to see if you're safe and sound. But then I'm gonna look to see if you still have your white mittens. So off Nicky went, and it wasn't long until one of his new mittens dropped in the snow and it was left behind. Can you see the mitten in the white snow? It's really hard, isn't it? A mole, tired from tunneling along, discovered that nice mitten. And he burrowed down inside of it. It was so cozy and warm and just the right size, so he decided to stay. A snowshoe rabbit was hopping by. He stopped for a minute to admire his nice winter coat. It was then that he saw the mitten, and he wiggled his way on in, feet first. The mole didn't think there was enough room for that rabbit. But when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved right over. Next, a hedgehog came snuffling along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move on in that warm mitten. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with somebody that was all covered in prickles, they made room for him. As soon as the badger disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by all the commotion, swooped on down. When he decided to move in also, the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled when they saw the owl's big talons. They quickly let him in. Do you see the talons? Those are his sharp nails. Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in too. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl, they were not pleased. There was no room left. But when they saw his diggers, they gave him the thumbs up. You think that badger's gonna fit in that? That mitten is getting big, isn't it? It started snowing, but the innels were all snug inside the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose up into the air, and a fox that was trotting by stopped to investigate. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel a little drowsy. The fox poked his muzzle in. When the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and the badger saw his shiny teeth, oh my goodness, they gave the fox a lot of room. They moved on over. Oh my goodness. What's going to try to get in that mitten now? A great bear lumbered by. He spied the mitten all plumped up. Not being one to be left out in the cold, he began to nose his way in. The animals were packed in so tightly. But how could the animals think of arguing with a bear? The mitten swelled, and it stretched, and it was pulled, and it bulged so many times its original size. But Baba's good knitting held fast. She did a good job making that mitten, didn't she? Then along came a little meadow mouse. No bigger than an acorn. She wiggled into one space left and made herself comfortable on top of that great big bear's nose. Do you see him? The bear, tickled by the mouse's whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. Achoo! The force of the sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky and scattered all the animals in all directions. On his way home, Nicky saw a white shape off in the distance. Oh my goodness, this was his lost mitten silhouette against the blue sky. Do you see the mitten? As he ran to catch the snow-white mitten, he saw Baba's face right in the window. Do you see her? What is she going to look for? Do you remember? First, she looked to see if Nicky was safe and sound, and then she looked to see if he still had his new white mittens. Do you see those two mittens? Is one of them now much bigger than the other one? Isn't that silly? I wonder what Baba thinks that Nicky did with that mitten. But at least he came home with them, right? We have some crafts for you to do with your mitten book. Let me show you. The first thing I have for you is so silly. In your bag, you have a bag of white stuff. Do you see that? Let me see if I can take this one out. Now yours is taped shut because I don't want you to open this up. I just want you to be able to squeeze it. Inside this white bag are 8 different things, and you'll see them right on the picture right here. I'm going to show you what those 8 things are. We're going to see how hard it is to find a mitten in the white snow. White mittens are very hard to find in white snow. Let's see if you can find all the white things inside your white flower without opening your bag. The first thing that's in there is a paper circle. The second thing that's in there is a cotton ball. The third thing that's in there is a white button. The fourth thing that's in there is a little white string. The fifth thing that's in there is a little white seashell. The sixth thing that's in there is a little white snowflake. And the seventh thing that's in there is a little white flower, a rose. And then the last thing that's in there is a little white piece of what's called sea glass. So I can't wait to see if you guys can find all of those things inside your white flower, which we're pretending is snow, okay? Don't open the flower and pour it in your house or Mama and Dad might not be very happy. All right, let's look at what else we're going to do. You guys have your own mitten. We're gonna sew our mitten just like Baba sewed Nicky's mitten. And so I have 2 pieces of paper here for you to sew together. And I gave you a little bit of string, plastic string, to go in the holes and to go all the way around the mitten. Okay, so you sew the mitten all up. Leave the bottom open because that's where you got to put the hand in. Then I want you to decorate your mitten because we just found out from Nikki that it's really hard to find a white mitten in the snow. So if you put some colors on your mitten and you decorate it, then you'll be able to find it in the snow. The next thing that's in your bag is a snowflake. Do you see my snowflake? I gave you guys some glue in your bag too. And I gave you a baggie of lots of little pieces of blue paper. And so I would love for you to glue them all on the snowflake lines so that you make a snowflake out of your little pieces of paper. Okay? And then the last thing for today that I want you guys to do is your letter I. Remember we talked about the letter I being our letter of the week. This is the letter I, remember? For it. These are, what are these? They're insects. Insects start with the letter I. And what I'd like you to do is cut these insects on their lines so that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 insects. Cut them apart. I'm going to ask you to glue your eye right on your other paper and then glue your insects on your eye. Okay? Those are the projects that we're doing today. I'm going to come back with another video and read you another story and tell you some more activities to do with it. So until then, bye bees.